Hey everybody, it's Dark Guardsman. We're back with another update here. So I ended up making another mod. I know I really shouldn't do this because I'm up to some almost 50 projects on Curse at the moment. Most of them mods, most of them still in 1.7, which is in 1.7. Unfortunately, it will go to 1.12 eventually when I get around to it. Now, the reason for making this mod is I ran into a situation on our actual private test server that we currently use. And we were building things, and I was getting ready to build an underwater reactor, and I was starting to clear out the water, build the frame, you know, all these stuff. And I realized that I was stuck doing this the vanilla way, where you have to place down sand and gravel, and then place your frame around that, then clear it all out by hand. It got tedious and got long, and I didn't have anything in the mod pack that I could use at my disposal. Now, I know there are mods that do exist that do solve this situation. For example, I could be using Buildcraft fillers to fill in the area. I could be using sponges from thermal expansion. I think even RF Tools has a few options. The problem is, you end up having to get a really large mod to solve this problem, or get really creative with more simpler mods in order to do things. I decided, you know what, it's only going to take me a few hours to do this, and it did only take a few hours. And I made a little tool mod called Dark Tools and Utilities. Couldn't think of a creative name, it's basically what it's called. This mod adds a single item at the moment. It's going to have more items in the future because obviously I'm not going to call it Tools and Utilities if I'm only going to have one item in it. The item that's currently in it is a multi-tool gun. It's able to switch between modes and sub-modes. The modes are basically called tools, sub-modes are called basically modes. It's not very creative. When you do switch, it does switch names, textures, and actions. It does very similar to the screwdriver, which let me go ahead and pull the screwdriver out to show that off. So we have the screwdriver from Atomic Science, we'll just use that. So this, if you hold down shift and control, you can flip it between the modes. If you hold down just shift, you can change the color. Very useful, allows you to activate multiple things, works just like Configurator from Mechanism, has a similar feature, although I'm not entirely remember how to do the Configurator from Mechanism. Its ability, I think you have to shift right click to switch, maybe? Or is it M? I forget how to use it when it's not important. But what is important is we do have this, and it works the same exact way. You hold down shift and control to switch between different tools. It does have a disabled state, so you can then make sure that you don't accidentally right click and activate the tool and do something destructive. But you can shift it like a mode, for example the fluid vac, and then you can hold down just shift and scroll by itself to flip between different types. So there are sub-modes. Now the plan for this, of course, is to build it as a multi-tool. I do plan to put a model on this and some really nice effects in the future, but for simplistic reasons, it is just built out to be a really quick creative tool that is a single item that I can switch between modes. It has currently a fluid mode, a melter mode, a freeze mode, and of course the disabled mode. In the fluid mode, we have the fluid vac, which then acts as a way to pick up fluids. So say you ran into a sludge pole from, I would say, Railcraft maybe, for example, and you wanted to clean it up really quick and didn't want to like spend a huge amount of time bucket feeding it or building pumps or whatever. You can say grab a stack of buckets or fluid containers, because it does support fluid containers, although right at the moment I only have water programs just so I can make sure the code works before enabling the full system. But you can sit here and right click, and you can pick up the water. Now if you say, for example, wanted to clear the water, you can hold down shift and go into drain mode, and you can actually drain the water without causing block updates. Very useful for building. And then if you don't really care about the water, you can go to Ender Gun mode and just delete the blocks. Now the concept behind the Ender Gun mode is that you're actually setting this to the void or end or whatever you want to think of it as. So there is a lore reason for this. It does ray trace. It does give you a 10 block range on ray tracing. I may increase this. This will definitely probably be a config to allow you to have more control. Now for the melter mode is pretty self-explanatory. If I go to melter mode, right click, you can turn things into different blocks. It works on the moment on glass and stone. I am probably going to hook this up to the smelting recipe system, so that way any block that would normally be stuck into a furnace and could be smelted, I'll have it smelt, with the exception of things that turn into items, just for sanity reasons. I don't need to be clicking a tree and have it turn into charcoal, because as cool as that would be, it probably wouldn't work out entirely well, although I do have some plans for that in the future. And then the freezing mode is also self-explanatory. Right click, turn stuff to ice. And this is also useful for building. Say you want to kind of stop the water from spreading, or if you just want to build yourself a winter wonderland or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You have the option. This will eventually work on other blocks. I plan to support turning lava to obsidian and back and forth. Of course, you'll be able to melt obsidian to lava. There'll be different modes in the future. There'll be ability to target and spread, so you'll be able to click a single spot and watch ice spread out in distance, or click a single spot and drain fluid quickly, so you can drain an entire pool in one go. There'll be different options to kill trees, grass, collect trees and glass. So say for example you wanted to harvest a tree really quickly. Of course I'll add modes for that because this is meant to be a utility system. It will have a drawback, so there will be an energy mechanic for it. The energy mechanic will be programmed to be configurable, so that way you can change how much energy it costs and you can balance it out in your mod packs. When you do craft the tool, you won't have all the options available. There will be an upgrade system, but you will have to upgrade these and actually get all the upgrades for them, which will have a material cost on top of that. And then some of the options will have a charge mechanic to it, specifically some of the ones for melting. So turning cobblestone to stone might take like a half a second per block. That way there's a mechanic to it, so you don't actually instantaneously do something, although that of course will be configurable as well. But it's a really simple mod. It is available on Curse at the moment, so you can just download it right away. I'll link this in the video description, although it will take a while to synchronize for mod packs and everything else. There at the moment is no recipes. I plan to implement these here later after I get a little bit more work on it. I want to spend some time testing on my server. After all, I did build this as a server tool, and it is straightforward to use. There is notes to explain how to use the system, and if Curse isn't going to mess up on me like every time I go to school. And there is explanation of each mode. Seriously, what is with this? I'm going to scroll down and it doesn't matter anyways. That's the mod, really simplistic, and I'll be back with more content and updates here later.